This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network, now in its 8th year of talk like you've never heard it before.
Hey everybody, this is Alex. This is the Ramble, and we're here until midnight tonight from the East Coast of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, that is, don't call him Steve. Don't call him Mister. It's Steve. It's Stephen Kravitz. Okay?
You can call me just Kravitz.
Well, Kravitz, yeah. You know, I had an ex-wife of mine who used to call me Bennett. And the reason she did it is because she married me, and on the marriage license it says Bennett Schwarzman.
Right.
And it said Ronnie Bennett, or Ronnie Haste, I think was her name at the time. And so she took the name Ronnie Bennett professionally. All right. In fact, it was in our divorce agreement that she could use my phony last name.
Right.
So, you know, so what happened, what she did, she came up with this idea. She knew me as Bennett, as Ben.
Right.
Bennett Schwarzman. All right. We would have friends. They would come over. She would always refer to me by my last name. So that when they were in the place, they thought, well, she was referring to me as Alex Bennett, and it was just her affectionate way of saying, hey, don't do that, Bennett. But in her mind, she was saying my first name. It was a brilliant idea she had. And I went, yeah.
How many times have you been married?
Let's see, 87, I think, somewhere around that.
No, seriously, how many times have you married?
I've been married 4 times. And I decided I'd keep doing it till I got it right, and I got it right this time. Well, I didn't get it right so much as when you're our age, you really don't think in terms of divorce.
Right.
You think in terms of, I'll tolerate it. All right. And we have a good relationship, you know. I mean, not like it isn't like all relationships fraught with a certain amount of yelling and screaming at each other, you know. But that's going to happen.
That's healthy in its own way.
Well, I don't think there's a couple, no matter how wonderful they loved each other and all of that, you know, there's not a single person out there who hasn't had a major fight with their loved one, you know.
Right.
The idea is not divorce. The idea is to solve it and move on.
Right.
You know? And too many people, when they have that first fight, it's divorce. That's it, you know. And no relationship is perfect, you know.
No.
And if you push through the current problem you've got right now with your loved one, listen who's giving advice, folks. Me. How many times have you been married, Alex? 4. But then again, I guess I'm more experienced than other people.
Well, I've been married 3 times.
Were you married 3 times?
Yes, sir.
I didn't know you were married once.
3 times.
3 times. Okay, first one.
First one, Patricia Gillette. We dated through high school, through college, and we lived in San Francisco together.
And then you broke up.
Right, and then we got divorced.
You know what how old were you when you got divorced?
In my early 20s.
See, what happens is, you made it through high school.
Right.
You made it through college.
Right.
You made it to San Francisco.
Oh, we lived together in Paris, too.
Oh, lived together in Paris. Okay. And then you moved to San Francisco, and you decided to get divorced. How long were you married?
5 years.
See, what happens is you were 2 kids who loved each other. And,
right.
And what your needs are when you're that age are different than your needs become.
Right.
And as you get older, you know, that first person was not somebody who was going to last a lifetime.
Right.
The one that's going to
right,
last
right.
a lifetime, believe it or not, is when you get to be like 60 and you marry somebody.
Right. Right.
That one can last a lifetime. Yeah.
How old were you when you got married the last time?
The last time,
Right.
well, I'm 82 now, so I'd say I was 72, 71.
So there's still hope for me.
Oh, there's still hope for you, yeah, yeah. Especially if you do what I did. I went on J-Date.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, that's where I met her, on J-Date. We get paid.
Did you really?
We get it paid every year, a stipend from J-Date. Not to mention that fact. You know.
Did you really go on J-Date? That's how you met her?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I came to New York, and I pretty well, I was kind of out of the mix. It was easy for me to get laid in San Francisco because I was.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we were stars in San Francisco, right? And
I never got laid more than San Francisco.
Really?
Oh, I got laid more times than I can count.
Yeah, but you moved to L.A., right?
I moved to LA and I didn't get laid at all.
Didn't get laid at all because you were out of your fame area code.
Right.
And I knew a comic once, he'll go unnamed, who used to refer to. I said, "Do you ever cheat on your wife?" And he went, "Not in the 415 area code." Yeah.
I've heard that before. If you're more than 100 miles from your house, you're not married.
That's right. Anyway, so it was very easy for me to have relationships in San Francisco. I mean, hey, I'm Alex Bennett. Oh, really? Let's fuck.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah. But then I came to New York, and and at first I wasn't even on the air, and then I was on Sirius XM, which was on the satellite, which nobody had at that point. I couldn't use that, because my audience was all over the country. I want to travel to Omaha to get laid? No. Right? So I don't know how to date. I had forgotten how to date.
No, me neither. Me too.
So I thought I would go to the lowest common denominator and try one of these dating services. So I can't remember what the first one was I signed up with, but I signed up with a couple of them. It's costing me a lot of money. These things were like $30 a month, right?
Right.
And I joined J-Date. And Marjorie wrote me, said, talk to me a little bit. And I said, let's cut to the chase. When do you want to get together? And we got together, we had a date, and I didn't figure this was the woman, But I liked going to movies with her. We had so we kept going to movies with each other, and all of a sudden one day I said, I'm kind of enjoying being around this person. And it grew that way. But it was J-Date was she actually asked me out on the first date.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. She also asked me to marry her because it was leap year, and on leap day, a woman can ask a guy to marry them. That's the tradition.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So she said, "Today's leap year, and it's leap day, and will you marry me?" And I said, I looked at her, and my answer was, "This is the kind of romantic that I am." It just gives you a clue to my romantic qualities.
Yeah.
But when she said, "Will you marry me?" I thought for a second, and then I said, "Well, it doesn't sound like a bad idea." Mr. Romance.
Yeah, no kidding.
Come to me, right? But I, it's been a good marriage, So anyway, that was your first marriage. And it was doomed to failure because you just were in love with each other for too many years when you were young, and then when you get to be like maybe 25, you start realizing your priorities in life are completely different than hers.
Right.
It's all changed. Part of what changed with me in my life between wives was that I got on the radio, and it was a different kind of thing. Women started chasing me, rather than me having to chase them and them go get lost, I just as I went through each successive wife, there was a different part of my life. Second wife was Ronnie Bennett, who was my producer on radio in New York. And when we got divorced, she left me and went with Barbara Walters. So and became associate producer of Barbara Walters. Well, first she went to the Dick Cavett show, just answering phones and things like that. And then she got this job as associate producer on the Barbara Walters specials.
Good for her.
Which was a great career for her. I mean, she got to travel all over the world because part of the job of an associate producer is to go do the pre-interview.
Right.
In other words, sit down with the person Barbara's going to interview and pre-interview them and write down some of the answers and some of the areas, of what she should touch on and so on and so forth. So they would try, have her travel to London to go see an actor Barbara was going to interview, or to Paris for somebody else, or to China.
Oh, wow.
She traveled all over the world. And it was a great job for her. She did it for 12 years. She was associate producer on the Barbara Walters specials. So she was very bright, But the problem was we got married when I was in Houston, and that's when I found my first fame, and all of a sudden there were women chasing me.
Right.
And in my whole life, I had never had women chasing me. Okay, well, look. Does this look like a kind of face you'd chase?
Well, the same thing with me in San Francisco. I never had women chasing me before.
Exactly. So it becomes hard to be married to somebody when all these women are chasing you. And so we had this I was a horrible husband to Ronnie. I was cheating like crazy. I mean, years later, I went back to her and I said, we hadn't talked in years, and I said, I'd like to have lunch with you. And she says, okay. And we sit down. I said, the reason I'm having lunch with you and that I'm picking up the tab is that I was a horrible husband and I want to apologize. And she liked that. She thought that was terrific, And after that, we became friends again and stayed friends until she died. But I was a horrible husband. I don't know how she put up with it. Finally, she left me. Now here, you're going to love this story. One night she says to me, that's it, I'm through. She starts packing. It's the end of the marriage. And she leaves. Now, I don't know where she goes, but I find out later. She left me. Hold on to do you have something to hold on to your seat? Okay. For Troy Donahue. You remember Troy Donahue? The actor?
No.
Oh, come on. How many movies was this guy in? He was like under contract to Warner Brothers and was the heartthrob of millions of women.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. And Troy had become a friend of mine, and she was running off to be with him, only when she got there, Troy said, no way. And now she had no way to go back, so she figured out where to stay and so on. But she left me essentially for Troy Donahue. People out there are laughing, okay, because they know who I'm talking about.
Right. Right.
Did you ever see? You saw The Godfather 2, right?
Yes.
You remember the sister of Al Pacino in that picture, Talia Shire?
Right.
And she has a guy she wants to marry.
Right.
That was Troy Donahue.
Oh, okay.
And in the movie, they referred to him as his name was Merle. The character's name was Merle. That was Troy Donahue's real name.
Oh, really?
Merle. Yeah.
Merle Donahue?
Well, no, it was Merle Morrison or something. I don't know. Merle. Oberon. I don't know. I mean, it was a name I can't remember. But.
Well, that's like me and my first wife. We now have lunch once a week.
You have lunch once a week now.
And we didn't talk for like 15 years.
And you probably like her, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy her company.
Is she married?
No.
No. So is there a future in that?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think we're just going to be lunch buddies.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
I mean, I was so happy towards the end of her life that I was Ronnie's friend.
Right.
You know, and that she could call me anytime and I'd talk to her, and she had a problem, I'd help her solve it and whatever.
Right.
You know, I thought the world of her. You know, and she used to do this show like you're doing it. You replaced Ronnie.
Well, I hope I don't pass away.
No, don't do that to me. But we watched her as she slowly progressed towards death. Ultimately, she, well, we could say she committed suicide. She did. Up in Oregon, they have compassionate suicide.
Right, they have assisted suicide.
Assisted suicide isn't so much assisted as helped. They get you the pills, and they sit in the house. As long as you feel you don't want to die, you don't take the pills. And when you want to take the pill, when you want to die, you tell your doctor, and you take the pills. And she got to a point where things weren't going to get any better. The last time I talked to her, if I showed you a video of the last time I talked to her, you wouldn't think she was going to commit suicide like 4 days later. You know.
What was she diagnosed with?
She had pancreatic cancer, and they cured it.
Ooh.
They cured it. It's a brutal operation, but they cured it. And she started getting other things, other cancers. So, you know, it eventually I'd like to say she died of pancreatic cancer, because that probably triggered all the other cancers.
Right.
So, but she decided to put herself out. And I got a call from a girlfriend who told me she was dead. And I couldn't believe it, because I had just done a video with her like 4 days earlier.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. And she never called me to say I'm doing it, which I think was considerate on her part, because I would have,
tried to talk her out of it.
I probably would have tried to talk her out of it. Yeah. And I mean, she was in, I think, a lot of pain. And I think that it's important that all you do for people like that is you let them make the decision and abide by it,
Right.
Because when she knew she was going to die, it was just a matter of when and how much pain did she want to go through to do it. And I think the pain had gotten to a point where she just went, I'll suck the exhaust pipe,
Right.
So that was number 2, that wife, and the relationship lasted a lifetime. It's wonderful, like yours. That's really good. But now, was that your first? The one you're saying now? Wow, that's amazing. You probably figure you both have a lot in common with each other.
Right, we do.
Yeah. Wow, that's sweet. That's nice.
In fact, she's been at the Cape for the last 3 weeks, and I miss having lunch with her.
Well, okay, well, I would investigate that a little more.
Well, I'm in contact with all of my 3 wives, ex-wives.
Really? Who was your second wife?
Paula Dwyer.
Paula Dwyer. And what was it about Paula that made you marry her?
She was drop dead gorgeous.
Oh boy. Don't you just hate that? And then one morning you wake up and you see her walking across, like I happened to me with one girlfriend, walking across the room naked and going, God, that's the most incredible body I've ever had sex with.
Right.
I can't stand it anymore. I didn't know what hit me.
I found myself getting jealous.
Getting jealous of her when she would look at another guy or something?
Or another guy would hit on her, because she was always getting hit on. I mean, she was gorgeous.
Yeah, but she was used to that, right?
Yeah.
So she probably didn't give in to that kind of temptation.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But you were jealous. You would yell and scream when she reacted to a guy that came up to her or something?
No, I didn't yell and scream. I just was jealous internally.
Oh, so you got mopey.
Yeah.
You got mopey.
Right.
You did mope, and then they say, is there anything wrong? And you go, no. No, there's nothing wrong.
And then I ended up relapsing on drugs.
While you were with her.
Right. And that's when she said, I want out.
Well, I would say it too. I think you would agree you would say it too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Boy, so she was drop dead gorgeous. So you married her. How long were you married to her?
Not long, like 2 years.
2 years. Wow, that's a short one. And then number 3?
Number 3, I met before number 2. I dated her for like 5 years before I met number 2. And then we had gone our separate ways before I met number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I married number 2. And then somehow I recontacted with number 3,
Mm-hmm.
who was actually, I met before number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And we got married. We got married at Justice of the Peace right there in L.A.
Mm-hmm.
And she moved. She hated being in L.A. Actually, my second wife hated being in L.A. also. She wanted out of L.A. She wanted to have kids, but she didn't want to have them in L.A. She wanted to go back to San Francisco.
Okay.
You know, my second and third wife were both San Francisco women.
Mm-hmm.
One was up like Sebastopol, and the other one was San Leandro.
Okay. All right.
So
You met her while you were. I bet you met her while you were working at Tommy T's.
the third wife, yes.
I figured because you lived in San Leandro, and that's where Tommy T's was.
Right, and that's where I met her.
Yeah. And how long were you married to her?
10 years.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow. That one lasted a while.
right.
What was it about that one that made it last that long?
She was incredible. She was really, really, really smart and loved me unconditionally. I got clean while I was with her, and I've been clean ever since.
Wow. So what broke that up? I mean, that seems like if you would actually quit drugs for her, okay,
Right.
there's got to be something a really strong bond there. So what happened?
Well, I was 5 years clean,
Mm-hmm.
and we were living in Carson City, Nevada,
Why Carson City?
because she wanted a backyard. She wanted a home. We bought a house up there, and there was a backyard, and there was a deck to sit out on and have coffee, and she wanted those things. She hated LA, and she knew I needed to be back in LA, and I went. So that's what basically broke us up, was me going back to LA to live and her staying in Carson City. She still lives in the same house.
In Carson City.
Right.
Because to me, Carson City was a city that I used to turn left on to go out to the Moonlight Bunny Ranch.
Oh, is that right?
Which my friend owned. And also, I remember Carson City as being two other things. It is the home of the Nevada State Prison.
And it's the capital of Nevada.
Well, it's the capital of Nevada, too. But it has the prison. They used to do all the executions there. And I can't remember if it was in the prison or somewhere else. I actually had dinosaur footprints that I went and visited. Yeah.
Oh, really?
But Carson City was always where you went through if you were going from like Vegas to Reno.
Right, exactly.
It's where you stopped to take a pee. Is really what Carson City was.
To pick up a cup of coffee.
Funny part is, and we're running out of time here, but the worst thing about Nevada is that it's so small that it only has really two major cities and a few minor ones.
Right.
You know, it has Reno and it has Las Vegas. And then
Right.
over on the other part of the state, you got Elko,
Right.
which is a fairly large city. And when you put Carson City into the mix, it's one of the smaller cities in Nevada.
Right.
You know,
And they got Laughlin also.
you got Laughlin, but Laughlin survives because it's right outside Vegas, and everybody goes there because they go to the Boulder Dam or Hoover Dam or whatever it's called these days.
Right, whatever it's called.
We took the dam tour.
And Laughlin is all casinos.
And then Laughlin has casinos, and it's a very nice city for casinos. It's
Right.
But all of a sudden, there's this little Las Vegas outside of Las Vegas.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, yeah. But that's really all that is in that state. You know.
That's it.
There's outside of Reno. There's another town called Sparks,
Right.
but that doesn't really count. So it's
And outside of Vegas, there's Henderson.
yeah, but basically it's Reno, Las Vegas, and then Elko. Those are your big cities.
Right.
And the only reason Elko is a big city is it's so far from everything else, nobody wants to leave. I mean, that's really a state with nothing in it. When I first went there years ago, I think there were only about maybe 500,000 living in the entire state.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, if you held a big music festival and told everybody to stay for 6 weeks, they'd be able to vote. And outvote everybody.
Right.
But anyway, hey, listen, we've run out of time.
Is that right?
Yes, so I'm going to say goodbye to you, and we'll see you again next week, huh?
This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network, now in its 8th year of talk like you've never heard it before.
Yeah, that ended pretty fast. Okay, hi everybody, how are you? Good to talk to you and to see you and to see that maybe you're here watching me. There's nobody getting ready to talk to me except Jeff Stein is waiting, and if you'll wait for a few minutes, Jeff, I'd like to talk about a few things, and then you and I will talk. And if nobody else joins us within, I don't know, the next 10 minutes or so, we'll say goodnight to everybody, and I can just take it easy. The Thursday night show is always lighter for some reason, and nobody calls, and I get to feel taken for granted. But anyway, just before I went on the air, I spilled some Windex all over the floor here because I had this bottle I got, and I filled it up with Windex, so anytime I need to clean something here, I could. But I didn't know that it gives up, it opens up really easy. And I accidentally dropped it on the floor, and it opened up, and all the Windex fell on the floor. Now, that's not a terrible thing, because now I have a cleaner floor. But it happens just before I'm about ready to go on, right? So I'm not ready for anything. But anyway, life goes on here as we try to survive. And, everything technically here seems to be working okay, except for one thing. Every now and then there is just something that happens before I go on the air, okay, that all of a sudden drives me crazy. Like I have a thing called Dropbox. And now on my machine, this machine, it's frozen. And so it then has a thing that it says Dropbox, and then it has the ISP number, and then it says up to date. And that won't go away, and the little beach ball of death keeps spinning round and round and round and round. Well, anyway, we got two people waiting to come on, so I mean, we'll check them out and see if they're worth talking to. Certainly one of them, Jeff Stein, is, and Alan's okay most of the time. Sometimes he can get a little out of hand and so on, but hello, give me a little more of your face there. Yeah, there we go.
No, I was doing it.
Good. That's good. Okay. Let me now put them on screen. Sometimes I just forget because I get so wound up in what I'm doing. Yeah. But anyway, good evening to all of you. I had something I wanted to talk about. In my 82 years of life, there are a lot of passings of things that happen. Like I can look back over my life, and I can look back at my growing up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and how life was then, as opposed to how life is now. And I have to understand, and as you get older, you kind of go, gee, when I was a boy, that's your most favorite statement, and I'm sure Jeff feels the same way, and Alan even to a lesser extent, but you really get to feel that way, and people die, traditions die, and tonight I just read about something dying that really grieves me, because it was very much a part of my childhood and of my upbringing as I was a young boy. And there was nothing better than what is dying, And I don't know if you've noticed it, Alan, but you're out in California. And what is dying is San Francisco is losing the fog. The fog is disappearing because of global warming. It already has.
Thank you, Donald. Thank you, Donald Trump.
Well, I won't blame him for it. I mean,
I don't think he had anything to do with it.
He didn't do anything to stop it, but
No.
But I just read tonight, as a result of global warming, the San Francisco fog, which, I got to tell you, when you're growing up in San Francisco, as I did as a young boy, there was San Francisco, there was me, and there was the fog.
And then about 20 years later, they came out with automobiles, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, but very funny. But the point is that the fog in San Francisco, I can't begin to tell you how much it means to me in my memories. Because some of my best moments were when I'd be walking down the street at night and the foghorns would be going off in the bay and there'd be a mist in the air and I'd be walking through the fog in San Francisco. And you can't do that anymore. It's just too, it's hotter. They said they could actually look out at the bay and see the fog rolling in. And they don't see it happen anymore. Have you heard about this, by the way, Alan?
I haven't heard about it, but I about 5 years ago I was in the city for a few days and I was staying at a hotel and I mentioned to somebody, it's the time of year for fog. I don't hear any foghorns going off.
There wasn't a time of year for fog. There was fog.
I didn't hear any foghorns.
Oh yeah, no. Well, what happened was years ago they did away with the foghorns. They didn't have a need for them anymore because radar made it. They gave boats the ability to miss all the big rocks and things like that. And the reason the foghorns were out there were for ships, so they would avoid these. They would put on these big, huge rocks that stuck out of the water.
Yeah, but I liked them.
Yeah, but wait a minute. But they put them there, and then all of a sudden, with radar and everything, they didn't need any more, so they stopped them. And then everybody started complaining, "Where are the goddamn foghorns?" And they decided, well, what we'll do is we'll put some phony foghorns out on those rocks and just have them go off every night. The only problem was the foghorns, when they were just, there was one here on this rock and on this rock and on this outcropping and whatever, and this part of the shore and so on, they all had a different sound. And the ones they installed at these places were like phonies, like recordings, okay? And so every horn sounded alike, and it wasn't the same as it was. I mean, there was a time, I remember when I would go to sleep living on Filbert Street in San Francisco, and Telegraph Hill, and I'd be lying there in bed, I could hear literally the foghorns talking to each other, like, brr, brr. And there was a kind of talking that went on. And, fog was as endemic to San Francisco as sourdough French bread or Dago red wine or any of those other things, a crab. And there was the fog. And the fog now it's disappearing. And can you imagine fog?
Even crab is, to a certain extent, a lot of it is disappearing too, because of global warming screwing up the seas and making them more warm.
Well, we were very good from the very beginning, about crab, because we realized in San Francisco that crab was very important to our income. And crab was a very important thing in San Francisco. So we had our crab months. We had only, I think, same thing they did the same thing with oysters here. Months with R in them, crab was available.
I got my first crabs in San Francisco.
Yeah, and it had to be, but it wasn't Dungeness.
No.
I knew that joke was going to come any second now,
Crotch crabs.
Yeah. But, the crab, The reason they did that is they didn't want them to be overhunted, overkilled,
Overfished.
fished.
Yeah.
And so they made it so it was like so many months a year that you could have crab. So some months it wasn't crab. So big
Right.
deal. It managed to keep the crop of crab going.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
that's that was the.
I mean, last year I was on eating at Fisherman's Wharf, and we did a walk and used to early on. I mean, during the day, the crab fishermen would sell their crab there, and they'd steam them there, and they'd give you a little cup of Dungeness crab, and very few of them had it. And if they had it, it was outrageous.
Well, I've talked about this.
Buy lobster cheaper.
I've talked about it on this show. We used to in San Francisco. My parents every night before they would go home. We lived in Marin at that point. Would stop. Oh, and they did this when we lived in San Francisco too. But my mother and father, when they would come home from work in San Francisco, he became a real estate broker later on in life, and she worked for the Variety Artists Union. And they would come home and they would stop off at Fisherman's Wharf, and they would get 2 cracked crab. What they would do is they would take them out of the boiling water. They would kill them right there, put them in the boiling water, take them out, and then chop them up for you, wrap them up in paper, right?
Yep.
And then my parents would go over and buy a loaf of sourdough French bread. I think their favorite was a thing called Lara Barou. I don't know if it still exists or not.
I think it's still there.
Yeah, and which was great bread, by the way. If you've never had it, it's you say you've had sourdough French bread, but you really haven't. Is it still the same way? Is it still the hard crust on the outside and the spongy
and really soft and
and porous on the inside?
You can't get it in New York.
It doesn't travel.
Not really.
It doesn't travel. They try to make it here, I think.
Okay.
But here's what happened with sourdough French bread. The sourdough was a sourdough yeast, which was kept in a sourdough yeast pot. Now, let me explain something. The original sourdough yeast came from the gold rush. And the reason it existed was that you could take every miner had a pot of sourdough yeast. And what they would do is they would use a little bit of it, and then they would put the top back on it. And then they would use it to make the sourdough French bread. It became the yeast that did the rising on the bread, right?
Yeah.
And you say, well, eventually you got to go out and buy some more sourdough yeast. No, you didn't. Because while it sat in the pot, the bacteria created more yeast. So you never ran out of the sourdough yeast. And the yeast that is used to this day in San Francisco sourdough French bread goes back to the gold rush.
Wow.
It just keeps regenerating itself and regenerating itself and regenerating itself. And it's been a mainstay, and it's great. It's just terrific, But for all I know, that's gone the way of all. They might say, well, we're not using the same yeast we used to use, But that's when I was a kid, I was eating yeast that came from the 1800s, or that regenerated itself from the 1800s.
Somebody was pointing out recently, talking about sourdough, but saying that the only thing that's really changed in the sourdough is, we're talking about the yeast and stuff, is the water. The water is 1 million years old, maybe even older, because they pull it out of the ocean or out of some lake that's got fresh water.
They can't take it out of the ocean. It's not salt water.
Well, yeah, okay, well, but they can I don't know. They were just talking about it. They take it, they get freshwater lake, but some of the water in that freshwater lake could be 1 million years old.
Well, I sincerely doubt that's true, because some of those lakes are drying up.
Well, now, yeah.
Yeah. But it was, I remember us having the cracked crab and
Yep.
had the sauce, and We have
I'm
my
sure-
parents had the bottle of what they call Dago red wine, Italian, really, that Italian basic red wine, and the sourdough French bread. And there was nothing better for dinner. Nothing better.
Sounds like a great kosher meal.
Hardly. I had a very kosher meal tonight. I had lobster rolls from Stu Leonard's. They cost about $30 for three, $35 for $4 for three of them.
Wow.
And
yeah. We used to have lobsters right on the edge of Connecticut versus Long Island.
Sure.
Yeah, did you ever have that when you came here?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Lobsters from Connecticut.
Right.
No, the lobsters I have always been used to getting are the ones from Maine.
Yeah. Well, there used to be.
But the first time I ever had lobster, I had it out on the. I went out to this guy Jerry Wexler's home for dinner, and they served lobster, and they lived out on the Long Island, in Long Island. And I think they caught it off of Long Island, is where they got the lobsters from there.
Could have been, because I remember probably when I was, 35 years old or something like that, all of a sudden the lobsters stopped working. And there was all these fishermen who were there, and they had all of these pots and stuff hung down, and they all died, and I don't know why. And they never got replaced.
Well,
So Maine effectively got the whole business.
They probably weren't being careful about the culling of them or whatever, the fishing.
Yeah, there
of them.
was some chemical problem.
Maybe that, but also
we don't know what it was.
They may have been not. Well, I think they adhered here to the months with R as well as a way of not overfishing those things. But those are, when you talk about crab and you talk about lobsters, they're really bottom feeders. In fact, that's why Jews don't eat it. They're called treif, and they're considered. And they were when in the old days you could die from eating them, because they, certain poison and whatever. But anyway, it was they were really pretty good. Anyway,
we had when I was growing up, we had my parents had some friends that owned in Oakland, Great Atlantic Lobster Company, and they had imported lobster and crab and stuff. So friends of mine now want to go out and have lobster because it's so expensive and it tastes good. I had lobster all the time and crab all the time as a kid.
Well, as kids in California, you didn't have that much lobster because lobster didn't travel well from the East Coast, and if you bought it here, it was just terribly expensive. So rather. So in California, Dungeness crab was the big deal.
Yep, it still is.
When
you can find them.
Yeah, when you can find them.
They all moved to Ray's house.
Yeah, I was just talking, Ray, about the fact that boy, you're using that Zoom thing, aren't you? Using the Zoom green screen thing.
Well, because I don't have enough light after I moved my desk.
Yeah.
Look
Well,
at.
you got enough light now.
But it looks,
Enough light for
you know
all of
something.
No, but when I have a green screen on, that's what happens.
Well, the Zoom thing. No, the Zoom thing. You're using the Zoom.
Yeah.
Kind of
fake green screen.
fake
Right.
green screen.
Right.
And it really doesn't work that well.
No, I know, but the problem is, like, when I check, I have a green screen.
Look at that.
That's what
See
happens.
what it does?
That's when.
Yeah, don't use
Huh?
the fake one. Don't use the fake one.
That's the real one.
That's the real one.
Yeah, because my green screen isn't lit enough because I moved my desk and the light isn't working.
Oh, well, you should get a couple of lights like I have. Yeah.
They're in the other room. I can go get them.
No. Why don't you just turn it off? Why don't you just not
That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna
yeah.
none. There we go.
There we go. Yeah.
And then I'm gonna pull it down.
Yeah, just pull it down. Yeah.
Voila!
That's what I got in back of me. If I pull on the side here, wait a minute. If I pull on the side here, no, I guess I can't do it. I was going to say people could see the problem with it. But
Whenever
anyway,
Jeff's home, he has his green screen. I like those doors, by the way.
yeah,
Well,
that's a very nice background. Yeah.
It
Yeah, it
is.
is.
It is.
We can.
But
we
anyway,
can
no,
go
what
outside
we
while
were
it's
talking
there.
about earlier, Ray, and
Yeah.
maybe you haven't noticed it either, but I just read an article in the New York Times. Guess what's disappearing in the Bay Area?
Fog.
Yep.
I just read it about 10 minutes ago.
See?
They had a really cool graphic in the New York Times too online.
Yeah. Did you know that it was disappearing?
No, I kind of noticed. I was wondering lately. Now,
I mean, we loved the fog, didn't we?
it keeps the air clean in the city.
Well,
It's
I
what makes
used-
San Fran-
I used to
I
call.
love it.
They mentioned in this article the very thing I have said for years, and that is it made San Francisco the only air-conditioned city.
Right.
Because what would happen is on a warm night, the cold fog would move in and just
Yep.
cool the air, and beautifully, and the moisture was just kind of. It was almost like as if you were spraying your face,
Yeah,
I
misting
always
your
thought it
face.
was like being inside a cloud.
it can
That's a
be
good-
relatively warm out with the high temperature in San Francisco in the evening, and the fog comes in, and the temperature is still the same, but there's this moisture in the air, and it just feels great.
Well, it does
Yep.
bring
And-
the temperature down, though. It does bring
Yeah,
the
it does.
temperature down.
But it feels like it brings it down more than it actually does because it just
Mm.
cools you off.
Yeah.
And then, like when it's really cold and that really fog, wet air, it's so great to breathe. I love it.
I mean,
I hope
I
it doesn't
imagine
go-
that would depress me greatly if I went back to San Francisco now and there was no fog.
Well, it's still there. It's just you sort of can notice it like getting less and less.
What I used to love about the fog was the way in which it would occur during the day many times, where the entire bridge, the entire San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge would be filled in, it'd be clear on either side. You could go to San Francisco, you go to Marin, it's clear. As you're driving across the bridge itself was covered with fog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know?
Wasn't it Tony Bennett that sung the song "I Left My Fog in San Francisco"?
No.
I left my heart.
Ah,
My heart.
But yeah, no. But the fog is going. It's disappearing due to global warming.
blame it on the Republicans.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as global warming.
Yeah, well, Phil doesn't
That's what
believe in.
Donald Trump claims.
Phil doesn't believe in global warming.
It's a political issue.
Yeah.
It's a cyclical issue, but
It's not a cyclical issue, Phil.
if you want the fog, you just got to have
you
fireworks.
are dumb when it comes to science. Don't even start.
Oh yeah.
Well, there are cycles on the Earth, but they know that we're speeding it up. There's no doubt about it.
And they know what those cycles are. And the fact that we're losing fog in San Francisco is pretty phenomenal. The wildfires, all of that.
And also, if it's different in other countries, like places like Indonesia, where it's really flat and narrow. They're already making plans to move cities inland. I mean, to them, it's a no-brainer. This is happening. They already have all kinds of problems.
Yeah, and
They know there's no glacier left on the top of Mount Shasta, which is always there all year long.
what?
Really?
Yeah, it's gone.
I walked up that glacier.
It's gone. Yeah.
Wow.
I heard about that.
Oh,
I mean,
boy.
all the pictures of Mount Shasta has that glacier on it.
Yeah.
By 2030, there will be no glaciers in Glacier National Park.
Wow.
But
It's
Phil,
They'll
change.
change the name.
but
yeah.
Phil,
I
there's
think
no
it's changed to Trump National Park.
there's no climate change, is there?
No.
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 How could you say that?
How can you
It'll
say
be
Why
go
is, it,
away
why is
in
it a
3
political
days.
issue? That makes no sense.
Because geology was my easy A, and
Oh.
I know that things are cyclical.
Wait a minute. This is
Yeah, things are cyclical, but we have an effect.
We're not
Like
talking,
just like the ozone. Remember the ozone layer?
Yeah, you mean the one that was vanishing in the
Yeah, that
sev-
we fixed by getting together as the world and got
And we
rid of
banned
fluorocarbons.
fluorocarbons.
Why
That's
would you
how we
laugh
fix
at this
we,
shit?
we don't have that much power to
Wow.
fix things.
Wow. When I hear shit like this, I want to hang up. Sorry, Phil, but it's just so fucking stupid.
It's the COVID effect.
It really is, man.
Cyclical.
Like when you say shit like that, it's
Cyclical
just like so fucking
the
stupid.
stock market is cyclical, Phil. The fog's not going to come and go every 5 years.
No,
I have no
come every
patience
200.
for this Trump bullshit.
It's
crap.
not Trump bullshit.
Yes, it is. It's
might
Republican bullshit.
Listen, you know, it
Come
might
on.
be every 200 years or 500 years. There was dinosaurs at
Well-
one time, and they got wiped out. Was
5
that
years?
global warming?
Well, then I guess Republicans are just
No,
stupid
that's
then.
something else,
That's
Phil.
what he
That's
said,
wait a
Joe.
minute. Hold on a second, Phil.
It's
That's something else.
cycle.
That's something else.
Oh
It's
my
called,
God!
No, wait, that's
What
some-
about isms?
Can I say something here? That's not. That's called extinction. It's an entirely different process.
It was the result
Things
of
become extinct, but
Yes,
that's
but-
not as a result of
cooling
global
trend,
warming.
Phil.
Although the Earth was very warm and very hot, and so we had the Ice Age, which came along, and what it did was it took the Earth, and it literally, the Ice Age, its function was to clear off a certain amount of soil on the top of the Earth, so that when it finally went away, we had a renewed Earth. And that is exactly what's going to happen again, because the Earth, I got news for you. Hold on a second, Phil, before you say anything stupid again.
That's stupid.
The fact is that a ice age will happen again when this planet goes, fuck all y'all, I got to clean this planet off because I'm going to survive.
Do you know what plate tectonics are?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that's the Earth moving and things expanding and contracting, and this is normal for this planet, and nothing.
No,
lasts
you're talking about
forever.
earthquakes, Phil. We're not talking
No,
about
it's
earthquakes.
more than earthquakes.
We're talking
ocean.
about earthquakes. No.
It's oceans where we now have desert.
That has nothing to do with plate tectonics.
Right.
Yeah, because what happened is that there were plates that moved, and areas of the world that were once ocean are now desert, and vice versa. And so we get climate that changes.
But plate
It's not a
tectonics-
Over
Republican
thousands
thing.
of years, Phil. Over
Right, it's
thousands
not
of
a-
years, not over 10, 20 years.
Well, where are the part of the thousands of years that we're seeing more change?
Phil, it has been profound over the last, I'd say, 50 years, my lifetime. It's been profound.
Yeah.
Okay? Not over hundreds of years.
Maybe because we're more aware of it now than we
Phil,
were.
it is
prior
profound.
to
It's
this.
profound, and we know the reasons why. Scientifically, we know the reasons why.
It's the greenhouse effect. When you add excessive carbon dioxide into the air, it causes warming. I mean, it's
Republicans.
I was an
don't
undergraduate. We
agree.
did that experiment. We took a flask and we injected carbon dioxide into it, and without any heating source around, it heated up the air because it started to absorb heat from the light. From
You know, it's
You study geology. He happens to be a scientist.
how do you?
He wears
I'm sorry,
the
Phil.
shirt.
I didn't mean to be disrespectful before, but like, how is it that you feel that adding extra carbon into the air is not having some incremental effect on maybe what's how?
of course it's having an incremental effect,
Okay.
but what we do as people, yes, we're ruining the planet, but we can't make in order to make that kind of change. We're just part of the change that's happening now. Do you think that the
You are
dinosaurs
so
were
naive.
made extinct?
The
Wait a minute.
dinosaurs were made extinct by a meteor.
That's what the prevailing thought is.
Yeah.
yeah.
And it wasn't just the change
No,
in
no,
temperature due
no,
to cyclical
no,
change.
it wasn't.
No,
They even know where the hole from this meteor is
Yeah.
in the ocean. It's huge.
absolutely.
It caused a giant indentation.
Yeah, right. Now it's called Mar-Lago. Oh.
Yeah.
No, I
And it caused an incredible change in the
was
atmosphere.
a major cataclysmic event which
So
affected,
you're the-
which hold on a second, but affected the entire planet. Okay.
Would have been similar to a nuclear war.
And it brought about the extinction of a whole bunch of species. I think the only thing that survived were cockroaches. And,
Well,
that's why you're here today, Phil.
But yes, wait a minute. We recreated and repopulated, and there were new species that came about.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is the cycle that happens.
No, but I think the point is, Phil, is that we're accelerating this cycle to the point where we won't be able to manage.
There's a difference, Phil. What you seem to not understand is what you're talking about was evolution, and this is this is not evolution. No, this is
you don't want to let go of it.
This is caused by man-made factors. The fact of the matter was that the trouble is that prior to about the year 1900, we didn't have anything like the American automobile. We didn't have a lot of things which were polluting the air, because that wasn't what was getting us around. That wasn't a form of transportation. We had horses with horse shit in the streets, but that was about it. Then as the years went on, we came to the automotive age, and we came to the industrial age, and we started using a lot of these fuels which put out with carbon monoxide and things like that. And it got worse and worse and more predominant to where there were millions and millions and hundreds of millions of cars and all these things. And so we, in a record amount of time, started changing the way the planet was reacting, and the way in which it was, and the kind of stuff that was happening in the air that as a result of that. And that's why it's happened so fast now. But to say that it's part of the same evolution that we had when the dinosaurs became extinct, that was a whole different thing.
It's an example of the cycle.
It's not an example, because that had nothing to do with global warming.
Now, 30
You didn't listen to me,
ago,
Phil. That had nothing to do with global warming.
No, that's your premise,
no,
not mine.
That's my. Let's go to the scientist among us, Charlie.
Also,
97% of the Earth's scientists.
Yeah, you don't agree with 97% of the Earth scientists, and let me just say this: I think they're smarter than you are.
Now, these 97%, are they the ones 35 years ago that said, "Oh, it's going to be global cooling that's going to"?
It was, until we started dumping all the CO2 in the air to warm things up. Yeah, we were headed toward another ice age.
We hit a tipping. It was a tipping point.
Yeah.
That's turned it the other way, that we didn't anticipate.
Phil, you sound stupid. You sound stupid.
What?
Guys
gullible.
And you sound stupid.
Why are we gullible? Like, tell us how this is
because
gullible.
you got some quack that's telling you that this is what's going on in Sweden somewhere, and it's ready to buy their BS.
It's not some quack. It is 99% of the Earth's scientists.
And what would be the motivation of these people of lying?
Well, there's a thing called carbon credits, and Gore was one of the proponents.
There we go.
I knew it. Carbon credit.
I knew it had to do with the Democrat Party.
The Democrat Party.
There we go. I was waiting. I threw the line out, and you bit it.
Hey, you're good. You're good.
Yes.
That's why we love you.
I think Trump proved that the Republican Party doesn't believe in science.
Another premise I don't agree with.
Yeah,
Who are the Republican scientists?
Well, then you haven't been paying attention, Phil.
Trump
and by the way, your Republicans are.
He's a good scientist.
Your Republicans are really
out of the Paris Accord that was trying to slow down.
Your Republicans are thinking that there's a way to really win in November, and that is they're just going to double down on abortion. And they're killing themselves with that.
I think that's what the Democrats are doing, is they're doubling down on abortion, but they're ignoring the fact that the economy is in the dumper, and that that people can't afford to feed
what
their
parts
family.
of the economy are in the dumper?
Retail, I can tell you that.
Well, retail, okay, but that's not the whole economy.
And food. What about the cost of food?
And that's not the whole economy either.
Yeah, well, it makes a big part of it. If you can't eat, you don't need the rest of the economy.
Well, I think we're all eating. We're just not eating as much as we used to, or in the way.
Well, Alan is. He never misses a meal.
The Republicans are the ones who are pushing the whole abortion thing.
That was a cheap shot.
Yes, it was.
Really
and he deserves it. Yeah, you know, it's you know.
I bet I eat
Well,
better than
I could
you.
say the same thing about you, Phil, in comparison to me. You fat fuck.
Well, actually, I'm down 9 pounds now.
Oh,
because
great! You know what they call that? A spit
Intermittent
a spit
fasting.
in the fucking ocean.
I think they call it a
intermittent
bowel
fasting.
movement, don't they?
Yeah, you take one good dump and that I lose 9 pounds.
Right.
Wow, really?
9 pounds
God.
isn't anything.
That's
Take
the
a-
Bennett diet.
No,
Can you
9
take a picture?
9 pounds is fluctuation, Phil.
No, because I'm also exercising 3 times a week, doing CrossFit. You know, between
And you know
that-
what, Phil? You know what, Phil?
Oh,
Yeah,
Spit in the fucking ocean.
it's
Still fat.
you know. Well, we'll see for how long.
Well,
see for how long.
well, we've been watching you, and it doesn't seem to be changing.
Well, you know, if you look at some of the 2014, 15, and 16.
I think if you were really intent on losing weight, you wouldn't have done anything about the prostate cancer. But no, you had to do something about that prostate cancer. And, you know, I did something about mine, and I had lost like 60 pounds, and I put about 30 of it back on because of the cancer stuff. You know.
I lost weight since the cancer stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
First of all, the prostate weighs a lot, and they took it out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, like 60 grams,
Yeah.
mine was more than that.
80 grams then. It's under 3
135.
ounces or you wouldn't be able to urinate, period.
I wasn't, but I think it was 135.
Nah.
No.
Really?
Yeah, a normal one
you know
is
what
35.
a gram is? Oh,
well-
you're a scientist.
A normal one was.
Yes, I always like to think of Phil as Mr. Wizard.
Yeah, yeah. You know what's the weight scale that they use for a prostate?
What's a weight scale they use for prostate? I
Yeah,
don't know. A
Usually
prostate
it's
weight.
a figure.
It's not grams. It's
Sure it is.
you
Yeah,
know
it's probably
all
grams.
those,
Go look at your medical
metric
chart. It'll
stuff.
say he had a 40 or 50 gram.
Oh wait a minute. We have to defer to Phil because he's Mr. Science.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. know.
So just to make this a little easier for you, 30 grams, well, 28 point something grams is 1 ounce. Okay?
Okay.
Just to make it a little easier for you.
Well,
you're just confusing him.
my prostate was
Phil,
135
Phil,
when
the
a
pro-
normal
pro-
one is 35.
A prostate is about the size of a walnut. Maybe yours
Right.
was a little larger.
Mine was like a grapefruit.
No, I don't think it was like a grapefruit.
Well, it was 135, whatever the scale is. There. Oh, very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Who
Look,
is-
it's
who
got
is
the
that
same
fat-
hairline
who is that fat
and the same
cop?
round face.
That was me, and I had a 34-inch waist then.
Mhm.
Yeah, where? On which leg?
Yeah. Yep. That was
Yeah,
that was
that's better.
So what do you have now?
A
38.
35-inch waist.
38.
38.
Hmm.
You've lost weight. Oh, sorry, I'm doing my math.
Well, that was 1984 or 5.
Yeah.
Where's the tiger from? Where'd you get that?
There was an event going on at the Richmond Auditorium, and it was a karate match, and the guy rented 2 tigers from it was not Six Flags,
And it was
Marine.
part of their Feed a Cop program.
Yeah.
Feed a tiger
They were
program. excuse
waiting
me.
to bring him into the auditorium for the show, and the handler said, "You want your picture with one of the tigers?" So I said, "Sure." So I knelt down, put my hand over the tiger, and they took a picture. I hope.
And that's probably the first rent-a-cop that ever had their picture taken with that tiger.
Remember Marine World, Africa, USA? You used to
Yeah.
be able to do
That's
that.
where he said it came from. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend who was the publicity woman for Marine World Africa USA, and she was going to take me to a place. I never got to go there. She knew this guy who, when the tigers got old and the lions got old and all of that, he had a place in upstate California where he let them roam and spend their declining years there. And
Wow.
she was going to take me up there because she said it was wonderful to see how this guy was taking care of these animals. Because
They had to feed the animals to.
eventually, though, they closed down Marine World Africa USA because they didn't. People were complaining about all these animals, being
In captivity.
in captivity.
They moved it up to Vacaville or whatever.
Well, they
Same-
they
same
moved
with
it to
the orchids.
Vacaville, but they finally they had to close it down because too many people were complaining about it. But her argument to me was, and she was the PR person, and it made a lot of sense. She said the thing about zoos and about Marine World Africa USA and so on is this was the only place the kids were actually going to be able to see these animals, and get an appreciation for them. It was really a question of how they were being treated, and she said they treated them quite well.
They did. I had a friend who worked there. She was one of the water skiers, and then I worked at a health club where we had a bunch of people who were the trainers, and they were the nicest people, and they were really, really,
Yeah.
they really cared about the animals. I could say. I mean,
Oh,
That
by
was
the way, can I mention something here? Because we lost some subscribers in the last couple of days. It would be very helpful if you're watching this if you would just hit the subscribe button.
It's like,
Smash
those
it.
whale,
Smash it.
they fed
say.
your prostate to those whales, Phil.
Yeah. You see
Can
that behind me?
Wait a minute.
That's the San Francisco Bay.
Can I finish? Can I finish my plug, please,
Yeah. Okay.
for people to hit the subscribe button?
Punch the subscribe.
and the like button.
Oh, also the like button and the bell, the notification.
And the notification.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
notification.
Just go right now, everybody. Click them.
I did it. I did it.
Oh, you
I
didn't
did it
do it before, huh?
No, I had it all on. I'm just saying I did it. Even
Mine
though I'd
already
already done it.
says
Yeah, because I-
subscribed.
If I look now, I bet it's still not changed. I asked people to do it here. Let me see here. We're up to, we got 2 people.
Go.
Get 2 people.
Yeah.
Come on, folks.
I know where it
It's
is.
our new telethon.
Why don't you get your voice guy to put that in your ad?
Hey, Alex, when you asked people to subscribe, it went from 41 watching to 38.
Oh no, that's a
No, that's
different-
because I got on.
Yeah. But
That was
anyway,
in
I
reverse, Phil.
I don't care where Phil says it. Why Phil doesn't agree why it happened. I hate global warming because I love the fog, and I hate to see it going the way of the dodo. But it's disappearing, and it was a part of my life, and a very romantic part of my life.
Yeah,
Me too. I mean,
coming
that's,
up.
I grew up there, and it's one of the things that it just kind of stays with you because you never experienced it anywhere else.
There's nothing like nighttime walking through San Francisco, like down
awesome.
North Beach, and that fog kind of rolling in, and the
Yeah.
fog being in the streets where you couldn't
very
see.
romantic.
Well,
Very romantic.
if you couldn't get laid in that fog,
Yeah, really.
you were.
You were Phil if you couldn't get laid in that fog.
There's Alcatraz behind me. After the global warming.
In 2033.
Yeah.
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 Well,
Uh,
that's all right.
Yeah.
Well, I used to live in Pacific Heights, and you would hear the foghorns. Actually, I lived in the marina for a while, right behind the Safeway,
Okay.
and you could hear the foghorns in the morning. It was beautiful.
Well, I used to
Now
talk
the
about it. I would
foghorns-
lie in bed at night on Telegraph Hill, hearing these foghorns talking to each other.
They're not foghorns anymore. Now they're
No.
electronic.
That's
They're
what
fake.
you
Yeah.
weren't here when I mentioned it. That they're all
yeah.
fake now.
Yeah.
But the reason they're fake is because they turned them all off, and then everybody complained there were no foghorns anymore, so they went and created the fake foghorns, which are still on those same rocks, but they just they're all the same pitch. Every foghorn used to have a different sound, and they
Yeah.
would
So
like
what-
talk to
Phil,
each
when
other.
when you were in San Francisco and those foghorns were going off, I'll bet there were a lot of happy sheep.
I don't get that.
You know how sheep. But I don't know what it has to do with fog, but sheep sheep like to get laid.
Oh, jeez.
I'm lost.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't work.
I don't know.
You mean the horn?
I often
No.
said that it isn't a joke worth telling if you have to explain it.
I just thought of it. It didn't work out. You got to try these things elsewhere.
Really?
You're very
Okay.
experimental.
Walmart. Sorry. Most of mine are pretty good. Jeff laughs at most of mine, so
Yeah.
More than most of the other people. But,
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Once in a while, you have a flub, you know. And
My friend's movie came out today. I watched it on Prime. It's called Tomorrow's Today, and it's got a comedian, a Greek comedian from New York, and the thing takes place in Astoria. It's an interesting movie. My friend Stoney Jackson, who was on your show once, was part of it.
What do you mean he was part of it?
He was a photographer.
He's a cinematographer?
He did the stills.
Well, that's
he
not
al-
really making the money. That's working on the publicity.
Yeah, well, and also his buddy, who's a comedian, and I can't pronounce his name. I'm a Facebook friends with him, Greg Kistosis or something like
Abbott.
that. He was the star of the movie.
What's the name of the movie?
It used to be called, when they were making it, it was called Charlie Boy, and now it's called Tomorrow's Today.
Oh.
How did they go from Charlie Boy to Tomorrow's Today?
I don't know. Charlie Boy was the star of the movie, and that was Greg, the.
And if it's on Prime, that means that it's not very good.
Well, you had to actually. I had to pay.
Oh, here we go,
I had to pay
Charlie
$2.
Boy.
Oh, what?
No, yeah, Charlie Boy, but it's Tomorrow's Today is the actual name.
It's listed as Charlie Boy in IMDb still.
Oh,
FYI.
yeah.
AKA.
By the way,
Charlotte.
raise your hands if you're not disappointed that Jeff Bezos' rocket blew up.
I didn't hear that.
Huh?
That's disappointing.
I'm not disappointed.
Yeah, did you hear about that? You didn't hear about that, Jeff? Oh,
Yeah, I did, and nobody likes that to happen. You know, they're trying to succeed.
What do you mean? There
and-
was nobody. There was nobody in the
I know,
capsule.
but they're you know. there
I
could
hope
have
he
been.
does. I hope he doesn't succeed at all. He's just blowhard. He's not creating anything of science. He's just sending up a rocket. That's all.
He's creating more than Alan. You
Hey,
know,
after the way he treated my hero, William Shatner, I don't care what happens.
he
to that
took
guy.
him up into space.
Yeah, but did you see, like, when they did the interview, he wouldn't even let him talk. That's William Shatner.
Yeah.
William.
Well, he did us a favor.
But I mean, I just hate Bezos' whole space thing, because all it is like an amusement ride, is what he's created, an expensive amusement ride. You know, and he's not really sending people into space. He's sending what's it called, Charlie? It's not called space. It's kind of the edge of space, but
Yeah,
it's
it's not even in orbit. They don't even orbit the planet.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, and they go, oh, we're floating around. Oh, wait a minute, we're coming down now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Does,
think that's
does
pretty cool.
anybody here have one of those cars that he sells?
Oh, the Tesla? Oh, no,
That's
No,
the other guy.
Elon Musk.
That's Elon Musk.
That's Elon
No.
Musk. No, this guy owns Amazon.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought Amazon had cars. Wow.
No.
No.
These
Wow.
are about this big, and
You know, Brian Erie has.
They don't even have delivery vans. Have you seen how their people deliver Amazon? They have these big giant boxes they drag around. Have you seen those things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have vans here. We have
Around here,
Amazon.
they have vans that say
Yeah.
Amazon Prime on them. Or
Yes,
Prime.
but then
Yeah, we have one.
then they let all your boxes off with these guys who have these giant bins that they drag around from neighborhood to
in New
neighborhood.
York, but not here.
Not here. They drive up to your house in the Amazon.
Yeah, they
It
drive.
looks like a UPS truck almost.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Mhm.
more modern. Yep.
Yeah. Well, these are guys that whenever they're very good at delivering to my front door when it's a small little package.
Yeah.
But when it's like a case of seltzer, they never bring it up. You know. So I can't stand Bezos. What a piece of crap he is. You know?
I don't know. He saved us for some of us during COVID from having to go out, we were able to order and have it delivered to our door.
Well, I was doing that before. The people, I'll tell you, the people who saved my life. I know it's strange, and I hate to bring up a company like this, but Instacart did it for me, because I didn't want to go over to Costco to shop, because I didn't want to catch COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because leaving the house and during that time was a death sentence, okay?
Yep.
And so we used to order from Costco using Instacart, and we now to this day still use. I haven't been to Costco in a year, but then Marjorie orders food from Stu Leonard's and from all different places using Instacart, and they really have come into their own during COVID.
Amazon has made life very, very easy. There really is very few things that you can't get on Amazon.
Well, yeah, but they've also, what they've also done, they've killed individual commerce. They've killed
progress.
Ask your local store, or your department store, can they exist anymore? And the answer is no.
Long before Amazon, if you went into Macy's, you couldn't even get somebody to show you a price. You had to take the tag over to a kiosk, put it up to a kiosk. They took away all the service from those stores.
I don't know what happened towards the end, but when I was growing up and when I was going to Macy's, they were a fine store to do business
Yes,
with.
and they were, back in the last century.
But, do you know who actually really blew it during the last many years? Sears. They disappeared.
Oh, yeah.
They've disappeared completely. Now, who was the Amazon of its time?
Sears with catalog.
With the Sears catalog. They should have known when they saw Amazon starting up, gone, good idea.
Yeah.
Let's just take our entire catalog, put it online, and ship the stuff out to people. Yeah.
They did put it online, but they did not publicize it. It was fantastic. Like, I wanted to get parts for my barbecue, and I was able to find them. They had detailed schematics of everything. It was incredible.
But if you wanted to buy overalls, we got them from the Sears catalog. If you wanted bird seed, you bought it from in other words, the Sears catalog had everything.
My first car was a car that was sold by Sears. It was called a Henry J.
Yeah, I remember the Henry J.
Yeah, and that was sold in the Sears catalog.
It was made by Kaiser.
Yeah, Allstate Insurance was sold by Sears.
Yeah,
you could buy a prefab house from Sears.
Yeah, the catalog. But all I'm saying is they didn't say to themselves, we should really put all of this online like this guy's trying to start doing, and we could probably beat him out of his own game because everybody knows the Sears catalog.
They did it, but they just did a bad job of.
No, they did it too. I think they did it too late. Is what
nobody got. You see, the problem with the Sears catalog was when you were a kid, you didn't get past the B section in the Sears catalog because that was brassieres, and all kids. What did you look at? You looked at the brassieres
and the National Geographic.
I'll tell you.
Find some boobs.
Phil's probably got the largest collection in Walnut Creek of those brassieres.
Oh, jeez.
With your assless chaps.
But
hey, does Sears still have the Die Hard battery and Craftsman tools and Kenmore and all that?
Yes and no.
Are they still around? Are they still around?
No, they sold the name of the not Die Hard, but the Craftsman name. I believe Lowe's has that now.
I believe you're right.
And so everything is being dissolved. They were in bankruptcy. I think all the assets are being.
Well, before they went to bankruptcy, they really lowered their standards. Walmart, Kmart bought them out.
Well, Kmart's bankrupt too, aren't they?
I know, but Kmart bought Sears out, and you knew things were going downhill from there.
We had a Sears right near my house, and I used to go there all the time because there was never anyone there.
Even when I was a kid, I never went to Sears.
I like Sears used to have a candy department and a counter where you could sit down.
Oh, yeah.
So did Macy's.
Ice cream and little sandwiches and stuff in Sears.
Yeah.
Well, actually, my favorite store when I was a kid, just because it was Woolworths.
Woolworths with the ice cream.
And because they had ice cream and all kinds of things. But I also love the fact they had these guys all over Woolworths selling stuff, demonstrating stuff. Hey, come on over.
Oh,
let me
yeah.
show you
Costco.
this. Yeah.
Kind of like Costco.
Costco has
No,
that.
but there they feed you. You know,
Yeah.
they feed you a little
Feed you and they give you a sample.
sample. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you go and get the next sample.
But I used to love these guys that, you know, those guys, by the way, those guys, their whole life was spent being pitchmen in Woolworths and places like that, and they were replaced by like Ron Popeil and all these people that started doing it on television. I mean, to this day, if I come across a pitch guy on television selling something like a deep fat fryer or something, I sit there and watch it. I'm fascinated by
The
it.
guy with the Ginsu knives, you know, is great. But these
That was Popeil.
No, well,
that was
who
was who was the young thin guy
I
that
can't remember, but all I know is I interviewed Ron Popeil, and his whole, he said, "Do you know why my stuff sells and why I can get people to buy it? When I start out on a commercial, I say, well, here we're giving out a
Pocket fisherman.
well, no, not a pocket fisherman, but we're selling a deep fat fryer. Okay, the Ron Code deep fat fryer." And by the way, if you okay, but that's not all. If you order right now, we'll send you 10 Ginsu knives. But that's not all. And then by the time they were through, for the $100 or so you might buy the fryer for, you got this whole shitload of stuff coming to your house for the same price. He said that's what sold his stuff. As he kept saying, but that's not all. There's more.
right, but in sales, that's adding value to where the lump of
but
stuff you're giving.
It starts
is worth
off and
more.
you show the value of that item in
Right.
the very beginning, because you show how good it is and what it can do and how terrific it is. But that's not all.
At Phil's carpet store, when people come in to buy carpet, he says he'll mow their lawn for 20 years too. And
There was a
that's
carpet
so
store.
successful.
There was a carpet store in Livermore that used to give a toaster and all sorts of free stuff.
Wow,
I think
really?
the guy was pretty successful.
He's out of business, isn't he?
No, I think he's still around.
Huskett's carpet.
But no, that guy's
Hey,
dead.
do you remember the Fuller brush man? He used to come to
Yes.
the house.
Sure.
They
Yeah.
started with a free thing to get in the door, so they would start with a gift which endeared the person and listen to their pitch.
You know,
Yeah.
all these pitches worked for a while, you know, but time passes, you know.
Yeah.
But
I got to tell
But
you,
it's cyclical.
women still buy clothes on TV.
Yeah.
My
Oh,
mother
they're
does.
fine.
My mother does
QVC.
it. She's older than everybody on this show.
QVC is the is
QVC.
the new pitchman.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She loves QVC. She's 89 years old.
Yeah.
She is always buying stuff on QVC.
Anyway, there goes our little theme.
Oh,
You know.
Oh.
Just when we were getting back to science with Phil.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
foghorns, huh?
Yeah. Anyway, hey, listen, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. Jeff, always nice to see you drop by. And Alan, thank you. Nice to see you. And by the way, thank you, Ray. Really like you on the program.
Thank you.
And Phil is the reason Phil's here tonight. Let it be a lesson to all of you. If more of you would call, he wouldn't. Okay.
Right.
So,
Correct.
you know, let that be a lesson to you. Okay.
Yeah, smash the like button.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil, for letting us know all about science tonight. And of course,
My pleasure.
and quickly, what does your shirt say tonight, Charlie?
oh, it just says sarcasm, the basic elements of humor.
Everybody,
Oh,
give
for
a
our
big,
guy,
I like that one.
give a big wave goodbye, okay? And I'll give a big wave goodbye at you, okay? Bye-bye, everybody. There they go. That's our citizen panel for tonight, and fun. You know, had a good time. Turned out to be a good show, in spite of everything. Anyway, I'll see you again. Let's see here. When? Oh, yeah. We'll see you again tomorrow night. The same time, the same station in life, 10:30 Eastern Time. In the meantime, as always, if you see her, tell her I love her. Good night, everybody.